Battleground update. I love this. I love this, by the way. The 3 minutes, like, oh, yeah, laning phase, right? Yes. The objectives are still going to scale over time, so they'll still be extremely deadly at the end. But you get a little bit longer of a laning phase to enjoy maybe that infinite ammo, maybe getting those orbs, completing a quest, getting that edge, getting that full level lead before that very first objective. So the first objective fight is still important, but maybe doesn't matter as much anymore when you actually had a really solid laning phase. Maybe. This is where I think we're all going to be a little lost for a long time. But the fact that they combined Battlefield of Eternity with the rest of these, actually, I guess Battlefield and the Haunted Mines are here, though. And the advantage you might be able to carve out in a 2-lane map with the extra time could be really scary. Like, particularly if you mess up the draft, right? I mean, so someone, you're just like, you're in Team League with your friends for the first time, and you're like, we're just picking our favorites, like we used to do on podcasters. Like, oh, just pick your favorites, it'll be fine. But then the enemy team goes, okay, we're going to do Ariel, a little moldy at this point, Ariel, Zul'jin, and build this whole little comp with a solo laner in the top. With an extra minute on board, without that team being able to avoid that laning phase, if they didn't draft for the lane, they're going to get crushed. And then that very first objective's going to come up, and they're going to have an edge on them already. I mean, that could be pretty painful on these 2-lane maps. Battlefield is kind of interesting because you can draft, you don't really draft for the lane as much as you draft for the objective. So maybe that kind of evens it out. But still, the longer we stay in certain modes, the more draft can be important. Rather than like something like Blackheart's Bay is my favorite quick match map. When it comes to ranked play, no Blackheart's Bay for me. It's horrible. I don't want a PvE. I don't want a coin camp. I don't want to see that snowball started. But when it's quick match, you don't know if you have a double soaker, and you don't know if you have a dude in the bottom. And, you know, maybe, like, just the randomness of all the lanes and all the merc camps and moving around it means that so many strategies are viable, and you can straight up, in a quick match kind of scenario, say, we don't win team fights, but we're going to backdoor. It opens up more in quick match. Whereas, you know, Hero League, its own beast, Team League certainly. Let's crush them at what this map is good at right now. Timers are unchanged on Volskaya, which is impressive. Newest map is ready to go. Tomb of the Spider Queen, that's fair, it's tied to the lane anyway. Cursed Hollow. That's right, mini-map indicators now show the spawn time. Cursed Hollow. Infernal Shrine, I love this, right? Like anybody cares. That's a little aggressive, but Mortars, Frost, and Arcane. Maybe in their dream world for Infernal Shrines, we're thinking of it more like Cursed Hollow, where we're like, we have 2 and they have 1. Let's give this one. What an interesting strategic decision. Let's take a boss instead. The boss is kind of evening out the objective there. But on Infernal Shrines, you're not going to be like, oh, it's a Frost skip. I mean, if I were to skip any of these, it would be Mortar. But you don't get to just, I don't know. Seems like sweet strategy, bro. Sky Temple appear on the minimap 30 seconds after the game begins, as well as 30 seconds after all temples. After the game begins, that's interesting. So people should still memorize their rotations and see and know where these things are going to pop up, but 30 seconds is a pretty good window to get a feeling on things. 30-second minimap, 30-second final altar. Warhead Junction, same thing. Regeneration globes will now become neutral, claimed by both teams, if not claimed within 3 seconds. Time before regeneration globes expire has been reduced to 6 seconds. What was it previously? Structures, this is the good stuff. As well as that kind of scary stuff I was talking about. No longer have ammunition. By the way, this means if you have any talents on your kit anywhere that destroyed ammunition, it's either gone or just removed as that part. You can still take it for other reasons, like I think Sledgehammer on Muradin, but there's no more ammo destruction. You didn't get anything back either, which is a bit of a nerf if you enjoyed those talents. Walls will now be destroyed if their connecting towers and gates are also destroyed. walls can still be attacked normally. So if we need to, let's say, dig Diablo out because he dove over the wall and got crazy, we can still destroy the side towers. But this is just a huge hit to Illidan, Greymane, anybody who's wanted that towers left, anybody who auto-attack heals. People who just like doing it, I guess. Leaping Strike Lunara could use one of these as an escape. I mean, there were a lot of really dynamic ways to use a leftover wall, and now they'll be gone. Again, it's a simplification. It's good. I like it. Because the idea being some dude's yelling at dude number 2 because he didn't destroy the walls, and then you gave away the rotation when you were heading to the boss. Nice going, guy. You didn't know that you were supposed to ride up into the lane a little bit and then curve on a right angle and then weave through the middle of those 2 towers because their circles don't quite overlap, and there's this little hole right in the middle. Right, Greymane with the cocktails, because it does such reduced damage. When you hit directly, you want the splash, so you would use a side wall perhaps even after the main wall was down to splash across that lane and get it cleared. There's lots of reasons why this sounds bad, but I see why they did it, and I think ultimately it's a good hero's decision. As a MOBA decision, I'm really against it because anything that can give me an edge with my information is welcome. But it's heroes, right? And we should be the welcoming, non-mad, didn't you know bro kind of guys, perhaps. We don't have last hitting after all. Tower range has been increased by 25%. Tower damage to minions has been reduced by 25%. Tower's now warm-up period, 0.5 before firing. Oh, that makes sense. So if you increase the range, people are going to accidentally walk into that range. If you can fix your range by a quick little turnaround, it won't fire on you during that time. Cool. Must face their targets completely. Well, that just looks nice. Attacking responsiveness. Standalone towers found next to forts and keeps have been removed. They said in the dev interviews that this was because they would often cause chokes that AoEs would take advantage of. I know when I'm fighting a team, I'm thinking about a number of things. But I'm also looking at if their fort's here, and we just got that wall down here, and there's a well over here, and then another tower up here, which one of these ways are they trying to squeeze through, and can I put my flame strikes in those little, or Stukov arms, or Malfurion roots, what have you. So now you're just going to have the well, the fort, which has true sight now, so it can see anything coming in, and then that wall in the front, meaning there's a lot more room for engagements and activities in the area. Health granted, experience, so the experience, damage, and health of those standalone towers was distributed across everything, meaning that it should be about the same game length ideally, though being hit by a fort previously hurt a lot, now it's going to hurt a little bit more, and every tower hurts a little bit more. And they also have that range going on for them. True Sight, Reveal, and Attack Stealth heroes. Though this is interesting. Curse, sure, why not? But Sylvanas is actually going to be able to turn off the True Sight as well. Interesting. Minion base damage has been increased by roughly 10%. Probably to make sure that a wave of minions can destroy the buildings in about the same amount of time as they could. Though it'll have infinite ammo, so everything's up in the air there. The 5-second delay before minions respawn after the game begins has been removed. Awesome, get to the action. Why not? Respawn timers. Mercenary camps will now respawn 60 seconds after the game begins. Mercenary camps will now spawn. Not respawn, just spawn. I guess we normally do this at the 2-minute mark? At the 1-minute mark? It's a pretty big change. Gonna have to change up our rotations. To understand this language, siege defenders mean that it's currently in merc camp capturable mode, and siege laners mean that it's been captured and it walked into lane. So it is now active, and some of these have very different stats, or have certain abilities active. So the siege defenders, the one that you're actively taking, the ones that are just sitting there waiting to be taken, those now telegraph their attacks and can be dodged, as though in the alpha, as crazy it is to think about that. But the siege laners, you're already able to dodge them, they've just made it easier to tell where the rock is going to land. Hellbat camps, response times have been doubled. They will prioritize structures, so this is when you're killing them. They have more health, scaling, damage, Increase. Damage scaling reduced. Oh. So they get lots more health, but their damage goes up a lot slower. Once they're in lane, though, they're a little different. Now they apply this 3-second stacking -5 debuff to all targets, stacking 20 times, structures included. So -5 armor stacking up to 20 means 100. So you can reduce armor by 100 if left unchallenged. Boy, that'll wreck things. Night camps. Oh yeah, the wizard laner now has a spell armor aura. Grants all nearby allies, minions, mercenaries, heroes 30 spell armor. If he dies, it goes away. If the wizard's killed, yep. And he also has a 15 spell aura to his fellow wizards when they're defending, so when they're in merc camp style. So kill him first. So no longer should we argue about that. If you are taking a night camp and there is a wizard, kill the wizard first because he's probably reducing the damage of that Kael'thas who's helping out. If you have 100% physical damage like Sammy, I guess you could take whichever one you want, but he still technically does a little more DPS because he doesn't have to move and you can't kite him to stop his DPS or lock him around other guys because he's ranged. So always been a good idea to kill the wizard first. Now you should absolutely do it. Otherwise it's going to take longer. 15% longer if you're doing all ability damage. Those are the big ones at the top. So we might be able to get to testing, but lots of this is the individual play stuff. This is great. As a coach, someone who does a lot of teaching in this game, these changes are just fantastic. All sorts of new stuff. You can spawn dummies for people to attack. Really good changes. Haunted Mines, this is actually more related to the Battleground changes. So Forts and Keeps no longer reduce its attack speed, which I didn't know, did you? But apparently that's going away. Makes sense. They're unstoppable anyway, like our vehicles. No longer interrupt its attack mid-swing to use an ability. Alright, so it increases its DPS. A little scary, actually. And now we'll pass through player-created walls rather than stopping to destroy them. So Nazeebo could put out his pile of zombies. It wouldn't wall him, he'd just walk right through it, but he'd sense that there was a lot of units in the area and he'd stop to do a slam. Now it looks like he won't stop to do that slam, so you can't delay him while you DPS him, which is a blow to certain heroes again.